I'm so excited to be here. You all are very energized. It is 7 o'clock in the morning to me right now, so bear with me. I really appreciated this conversation. Before I even get into my talk, my boss gave me a book about time management that says a little bit about myself. And I was reading it on the plane over here, and there was a little story in it about how when we created the vacuum, the dishwasher, these tools, the wash machine, which now is linked to my watch while I'm standing here getting very anxious that my husband has our clothes still in there. But needless to say, the whole point of these technologies was labor saving. It was to help housewives at that time save time. But that is not what happened. When we created these technologies, what in fact happened is our expectations elevated. So when we think about AI, what the talk we're gonna have a little bit today is about that elevation, about what I like to call the magic that we're missing. You're gonna have to come along this ride with me today. It's gonna be very exciting. I'll get into that in a minute, but let me introduce myself. I work for Arizona State University in a department called Ed Plus. Ed Plus is a unique kind of unit within institutions. It is an R&D unit. We were created about 20 years ago as an R&D unit to create online learning. At that time, online learning was not considered the norm. It was not considered quality education. And so thinking through today, we actually have more online students than we have on campus. So that R&D unit has expanded out to now working with corporate partners like Starbucks and Uber to remove financial barriers for students where you could be a Starbucks barista and get free education. So there's a lot of opportunities here of how we think about disrupting what higher ed looks like. And my background is also unique. I don't like to do one thing. And so this is kind of a little bit of my encouragement for today. I'm a designer, I'm a creative, I'm a marketer, I'm a technologist, I'm a data analyst, and you'll see that a little bit in the team and what it means to be experience focused. And what I've heard a little bit today is the silos that exist within our institutions and most organizations is actually what is limiting us from being experience first. I will also talk a little bit about how I was one of those students that had no idea what I was gonna do. I went to ASU and I got a kinesiology degree. I am not a physical therapist today. And so there are tools out there like AI that we are using to help solve for some of these, not challenges, but the ability to explore who you are at 18. I was a softball player, that was my identity. It's what I thought I was going to do. I didn't really have family that went to college. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that during the ride that I'm about to take all of you on. I've become, as a mother, a very big Disney nerd. And so if you are a Star Wars fan, if you're a Marvel fan, I am your girl. And we're gonna have a long conversation about Disney. So let's talk about why Disney. Bear with me. We're going on a journey today, okay? Disney, you could have different experiences going to Disneyland, Disney World. My first experience, when I was younger, don't really remember it, but I went more recently with a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. Oh, yeah. Not as magical as you may think. You know, when you think about the lines that you stand in, and I went during this time, it was right after the pandemic, so Disney was closed for maybe 6 months, something along that. We went right when it opened. It was during the summer. We were not in our right mind. We were not. We just wanted to get out of the house. And so that was a journey. We waited in lines for hours and hours, and it was hot. And so I went recently with a group of colleagues, I think about a year ago. Whoa, it was a different experience. As a designer, I was amazed by the level of detail that goes into the queues. I'm sitting there, I'm going on Guardians of the Galaxy. For those of you, I live in Arizona, so it's just a drive up to go to Disneyland in California. But when you go on Guardians, it's the Tower of Terror, so they're gonna drop you hundreds of feet. But I'm going in and I'm going into this the collector's den, and I'm seeing Loki, and I'm a big fan of Loki. I'm seeing kind of some of his memorabilia. I'm seeing a video that's talking to me about the Guardians that were captured. I get to walk into the collector's private room, and I'm hearing Rocket talk to me, and he's telling me that we're gonna be recruited to go save them. It was amazing, and I'm just waiting in line. Like, I'm not even at the ride yet. And then I go to the Rise of the Resistance, and I get to see, get to be recruited into a bunker that was hidden for us to be recruited a part of the Resistance. And then a Star Destroyer comes, and we're captured, and I see 50 different stormtroopers as I walk out. Just absolutely amazing. So of course, I'm like, how did they get here? I think about the queue of our students, and how do we get to a place of magic, of entertainment, of excitement, and the OKR of happiest place on earth, which I would not want that OKR, but I would tell you this, that there's something about what happened in this story that I think we can learn from. So I went and did some research. This was about a year, 2 years ago when I started this. So deep research on GPT was not yet available. I actually, on the plane ride over here, went through deep research to see what else I could learn. I learned about the 10 Mickey Mouse commandments. Number 1, know your audience. Number 2, wear your guest shoes. How more applicable could that be? And so the history of the queue, I'm gonna walk you through it a little bit, was back in the 80s when Disney came out with MGM Studios, which is now Hollywood Studios in Florida. They went through an opening, and they had about a few rides at that time. And that opening weekend, they had too many guests. And the lines were about 3 hours long. So that happiest place on earth became the most dissatisfied place on earth. I will also tell you in my research that Americans are much more impatient than the French. And so it depends on which park you go to of what your level of patience looks like with how painful this complaint is. But the number 1 complaint at all of the parks is the queue. So the CEO of the time, Michael Eisner, said, okay, we need to fix this. It's one thing I love about Disney is that they don't accept any level of dissatisfaction. So this was the issue. 3-hour waits, the lines were miles long. It was hot, there was no communication of how long you would be waiting. So they went through a design process. What was the first thing that they did? Well, Walt was a leader who wore his guest shoes. He went and stood in line. He never used the lightning lane, never went through the fast pass, and he said, okay, we're hearing that it's long, but we're also hearing that we're not being transparent. We're not setting expectations. So we found out, okay, we need to tell guests at the beginning of the line it's gonna be 60 minutes. However, it's not 60 minutes, it's a trick. It's actually 45 minutes because they're always going to exceed your expectations. I can't tell you how many times I'm in a line, I was like, woof, that was faster than I thought it was. Another crazy thing in the 80s or 90s, maybe not that crazy to this group, but crazy to the Disney groups. When I go wait in a line, everyone's on their phone. But in the 80s, strangers actually like talking to each other. Weird concept, I know. But they created the switchback line. So the switchback line was to help pass time so that you would sit and talk to your neighbors, it would distract you, but you could still see how far the line was. So they did some research and they figured out that it was still a problem. Then what they did is they put up walls. So if you go into some of these queues, you're surrounded by the environment, by where you're going. I'm seeing rocks in Star Wars because I'm on a different planet. You can't see how far you're going. And so that was an important part, but the most important part was these peak moments. So when I'm talking to Rocket, I'm on this ship before I actually get to my ship on the Rise of the Resistance. There are these peak immersive moments getting you excited about the ride, getting you immersed into the story and what you're going to be doing, what your role is. From there, they created the lightning lane. They used data to help show progress so that you didn't have to physically wait in a queue. You could pay an extra fee and you could go stand in a virtual queue. And so through that, that means that now data and technology has enabled us to probably spend more money while we're shopping around, not in line, which is fantastic, or feeding our kids lots of sugar. But the Lightning Lane was another opportunity to be also transparent so that you're not actually cutting the line, but you're able to have an additional service that you could pay for to have a faster, more enjoyable experience. The last one that just came out last year was Lightning Premium. We know with the pandemic that Disney has had a lot of cuts, whether it was their cruise ships, whether it was the parks that closed down, whether it's their Disney movies that aren't making the same revenue that they were making from now their streaming services. So they now have an even more bougier service that you can pay a lot of money to just have no lines at all. So why am I bringing this up? I did not tell you about what I do and why my role is what it is. I'm not a CTO, I'm not a CMO. We don't have either of those roles in our organization. Think of me as a chief experience officer, where when we build solutions, I oversee a multidisciplinary team of individuals who work together to deliver that experience. So when we talk about the research that is needed to understand the guests, that is the UX researchers who democratize that knowledge and give it to the designer and the engineers who might be building the ride or building those walls. The designers thinking through what does that experience look like for the line. We have emerging technologists that are the ones using AI, XR, anything that is net new to immerse our guests, our students into their core ride experience. We have our CRM team that is thinking through the Lightning Lane, using data, building technology to show progress, to be transparent, and to communicate with the guests where they are. And then we have our product team that's thinking through the business needs. So we went through a pretty big organizational change at ASU, where you can say AI, you can say technology. We still have technology units, we still have marketing units. But these silos is what is hurting us from aligning and working together on solutions. I started on the marketing team. I was moved to the technology team. I then became product because we needed to bring these teams together to make the right business and customer decisions. And so I have a hard time explaining my role, and I don't recommend this structure for all. It is really dependent on how you collaborate and what collaborative intelligence looks like within your organization. This does not have to be a single team, but there's no reason when we're solutioning that you can't work together and bring in people who are not usually a part of that expertise or that domain to have better ideas. And so this is what my team looks like today. We start with the business need. We have goals to hit 180,000 online students by 2030. We're aiming for about 117,000 this next fiscal year. We have very large growth goals, but we also have very large friction that students, faculty, and staff need from us to hit those business needs. And the business need is not a business need. It is a charter, a mission of access. ASU's access states that we are measured by whom we include. And that might not mean just through ASU. We work with other institutions, with University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and their goal is to better serve the 40 million Americans with some college, no degree. We have failed. We have failed as an industry. And so we cannot do this alone. So that business need is truly an access need. It's truly a community need. We then go into the design phase. We have creatives that then work with our engineers to build. We have teams dedicated to AI and XR. It is their full-time job. But it's not just one team's responsibility. Every one of these teams have people within those teams that are the evangelists to what and how we use AI. And then our last team is our team that supports our 200 enrollment coaches and 100 success coaches that support all of our online students. And so we just don't consider it a CRM. They are a product team. They're building technologies on top of our CRM that serve staff who serve students. So let's go back to the Disney analogy. The queue, we have one. And I would argue our COO, my COO, would tell me that this is backwards because students are with us for 4 to 8 years. And so actually the ride is a lot longer. But for today's analogy, we're gonna focus on the queue of just students getting in the door, because this is where we're losing students. We have major problems. And when we innovate, when we say AI, I actually get hives when I hear AI because I hear it quite often from our president, from our CEO. And the word AI is not in my primary vocabulary, because I wanna know what problems we need to solve. What are the problems? And then let's figure out, is AI the best solution? Understanding AI's affordances and understanding its limitations will help a solution, but we have to be centered on the problem. And so these are typically the areas that don't get innovated, right? These are the areas that we've had them, they're following legacy policies, processes, technologies, typically where we see conversion rates start to dip. So one thing that I want you to take away of anything from this presentation, before I get into more of the how do you apply this, is this quote, this Disney lesson. It says, "Don't let the process of creating new things distract you from optimizing the existing customer experience. Put yourself in your customer's shoes, listen to them and their concerns, and don't accept any level of dissatisfaction, regardless of how necessary it might appear." And I know there's a lot of opportunities, going back to the wash machine, the vacuum. There is so much work. I'm sitting here in the back of the room clearing my 1,900 emails, trying to get to the zero inbox that is just never going to happen. And so I think we're scared of AI and some of these tools doing things that we believe we should be doing. But the reality is we can't keep up with our own jobs, let alone our own lives. It's hard being a mom and trying to be healthy and working as much as we do. We are here because we're passionate about education, nothing less. And so this group will never not have ways to exceed expectations, and we're not even close to that. So think that through when you have to remind yourself how much we don't get to do in a single day that we want to do. And so I showed this slide. I'm not an academic, I'll just say that. I work with a lot of academics. And I said, okay, look, we can build the magic band, we can build the app, we can do all these things. But when only 50% of our students who start an application actually submit it, we've got a problem. This is not where we need to be focused right now. So another kind of hurdle that I have gone through, because I'm a user experience professional, I'm not necessarily an academic researcher, is you only spoke to 10 students. You only spoke to 10 students. That is not statistically significant. I would argue that we've done the work in saying that it doesn't matter. Those 10 students you spoke to will be representative of hundreds, if not thousands. And we've done the work to show that. We interviewed 40 to 50 students, international students, transfer students, military students, undergrad students, graduate students, corporate partner students, any type of student you could think of. We've interviewed many of them. And we've got more information from those in-depth interviews of why did you pick our school? Why did you pick this degree? What motivated you to even want to pursue college? Why did you go to this university? And why did you take a year off? Or why are you coming back 15 years later? What are all your motivations, your fears? What is your life look like? Okay, you're a working single parent. You can only take classes at night. You're working 2 jobs, and you want to be a nurse. Okay, we spent all this time gathering that data, and then because the pushback, right, it's not enough. We took all the data that we already talked to students, every survey you could possibly think of, and maybe filling in the gaps and adding more. And we had 10,000 students then that were quantified on these pain points. there were no new pain points created. It was all the same pain points that those 40 students were. Did it make a difference? Yes, because when you're in academia, you need some sort of volume, especially with academics, to show the pain and how bad the pain is. So what did we do? We created an experience map. This map is every single friction point quantified with every single quote. We used AI to go through all of our survey responses, to theme it, topic analysis, to be able to help us tell the story, to create a strategic roadmap on what we're gonna work on and what impact it's gonna make. I think we get stuck in optimizing. I spent a lot of years just optimizing our website, making a half of a conversion point difference versus a 20% increase in conversion rates in the application. The issue is I don't oversee the application. That's not my product, that's not my team, but it's a barrier for us to hit those goals. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but the experience map is important. So the queue, we talked about the queue. Let's talk a little bit about the defragmenting, the defrictionalization. I've heard this a little bit already this morning, and this is by far the biggest barrier. We have the most barriers externally today in higher education, but we are all still pushing against each other internally. We are each other's barriers. We are the walls that are being put up around us because of fear of not knowing what it may look like to work together. So if you talk to an admissions counselor, you talk to an advisor, they're celebrating how great things are. When you talk to a student and they're talking to an advisor, an admissions representative, a financial aid counselor, a transfer specialist, you're getting communications from online that's completely separated from campus and SMS from the college. You're getting inundated because each area is focused on their part of the journey. We are not focused comprehensively on what we need to do together. And I will say, we went through a little bit of a journey at ASU where we were working with an OPM, and we stopped working with them a few years ago. And we went through a little bit of a J curve where as we were going through this transition, we didn't hit goals. We hit that bottom. We didn't really think about that. Okay, we'd come back out. We were hiring hundreds of coaches. We had to train them. We paused marketing, had to transition that to a different unit. But it was a moment of clarity. Sometimes when things get hard, you have to stop and actually ask yourself if what we're doing is the right thing. And when we were just spinning our wheels, trying to grow our enrollment, marketing, we had a leaky bucket. And so all that investment that you make in bringing in students when they're just falling out as fast as they come in doesn't seem like the best use of energy. And so this was a pivotal moment for us a few years ago where we had to look deeper in why our conversion rates were so low, why students were complaining. And then we realized we didn't actually have data. We didn't build these legacy tools 10 years ago with robust analytics. We didn't build it with feedback that can be automated into Slack channels for the teams who are working on it to see. You can't blame the teams. They're not hearing directly from these students on what is happening and all the friction. We luckily had coaches who are hearing it continuously from the students they talk to. And so there are 3 different groups during this time that we kind of asked ourselves, what do we know? Like, who knows what? We're not hitting goals. Who knows what? Who can we talk to? Who has some subject matter expertise? We spent time talking to these 3 areas. I'm gonna talk about the staff piece in a moment, but before I do that, I wanna cover my experience being a kinesiology student, being a softball player, how many 18-year-olds actually know what they want to do and how life or death it is to them to make the right degree decision. I also went to community college, didn't have the financial support I needed and thought I would just try it out, dip my toe in that. But this is a very real challenge that is stopping students from even applying. And I will say ASU has 700 degrees, 350 just online. That is choice paralysis. Think about even shopping for a car. Do you know how much time we spend looking at cars, looking at prices, going to Kelley Blue Book, making sure there's no accidents, going and test driving, and that's just sometimes a fraction of the cost of what students pay for a degree, in addition to how long they spend in their degree program. So we also were noticing on our website that students would scroll, they would completely skip the filters, and they would just make it to the Ds, because we had so many degrees, and they would give up. So when we talk about AI, I didn't need to know that AI was the answer. I just needed to know that we had a problem. We also had a tool that we built that used reassess scores based on images, so that you could go through and pick an image that you most relate to. Based on that, it would calculate your top careers, and then it would calculate a degree, a recommended degree. The problem with that tool is only 1 or 2% of users who actually started that tool made it to the degree selection. And it was gonna cost us $500,000 just to optimize it. It was built years ago. So we thought, let's experiment. Talking about playing, let's experiment and let's see what AI can do. We built out a quick proof of concept. As soon as GPT came out a year or two ago now, we said, okay, we need to manage cost. We can't have a chatbot. We need to think about tokens. We need to think about equity and degrees being shown, because we have so many. We need to think about what questions students want. And we need to make it more than the filters we have. How do you want to work? Do you want to work outdoors? Do you want to make a social impact? We used AI to help us streamlining the logic that was created with reassess, and we saw dramatic improvements. Not only did we see, we have now about 10,000 students that have used this in an A/B test that is live on our website. We have it placed at a moment when we know they're struggling. So if they're on our pages for, I don't know, a minute, and they haven't picked a program, this will come up. From there, we wanted to get to about a 4 out of 5. We're not there yet, but we also don't let perfection stop us from progress. So we're putting things out there, we're learning from it, we're letting students know it's AI generated. We're not telling them it's a recommendation, it's an exploration tool. From there, our conversion rates went from about a 4 to 5% for RFIs to an 11%. We are seeing our application conversions increase, and we're seeing of those who went through the tool, of those that RFI'd or applied, 50% chose a degree we recommended. We're watching all the way to enrollment and graduation. Do they keep that degree? This is starting with robust data. It's being iterative. It's learning what the tool is good at, and we're constantly evolving it, changing the questions. We've been spending 6 months just evaluating the output to understand why are students not satisfied with the results? Why are we not at a 4 out of 5? So let's go back to the admissions process. I'm gonna show you this slide. The words on here say, I cannot, error, invalid, restarting, starting over, a problem, terrible, can't get past the login process. When that moment when we were going through this J curve and we're like 50% conversion on the application, what is going on? There was no data. And when we went to the admissions teams to say, we need help, we have to improve this. No, it's not the technology, it's the APIs, it's this other unit, it's not the application. We also found out that a lot of campus applications came through the Common App. So it just wasn't as big of a priority as it was for online students, where almost all of them are coming through this app. And online students are a little bit different. They have higher expectations, they have less time, less patience. They're not gonna sit around, and the market in online is very different with for-profits. You can babysit and get credit at some for-profits today. But with that being said, this is the silo that exists, is we knew we had a problem, we knew that we knew something about that problem because we spoke to our enrollment coaches. And what we found out from the enrollment coaches is they spent 50% of their time being IT. Their words were clear cache, clear browser, don't use Internet Explorer, don't use your mobile device, let me send you a PDF, and come back tomorrow. I'm not joking. 50% of their time, they couldn't even be in coaches. They couldn't even help support students and walking through what degree they wanted because students couldn't even apply. So what did we do? This is not AI, not AI. This is just the amount of legacy debt that we have at our institutions right now. We tend to forget as we move on to other innovations that we get assigned. So we completely redesigned it, but we did it in a very strategic way. It's so easy to say, okay, we're gonna spend 2 years building an application and we'll launch it in 2 years. That's not good enough. We took 6 months and we said, we're gonna have 2 applications. We're gonna move a population over first. We're gonna build a routing system. So those that have an app will go to this one. Those that are new and are online will come to this one. And then we're gonna test it so we could change the dial depending on how the conversion rates were. And we saw the conversion rate go from 50% to 70% in a week. This is an important project because this was the first one that had us go through a much larger digital transformation at the university. You only need one, but you need data to show the impact. And so this is where we ended. This isn't just 10 students, these are thousands of students. We were seeing higher CSAT scores going from 45 to 74. We saw the conversion rate change. Not only did the conversion rate change, we had more students registering, which is actually what matters. The app doesn't matter. It's more students enrolling. Less time to complete, higher completion rates, significantly less errors. All we did was remove errors and improve the UX so that when you have a missing field, you're not stuck trying to figure out where that is. Basic UI, UX changes and fixing some batch processing. It was nothing transformational. But if you look at the after, okay, I love this Bluey one that clearly, maybe it's not a mom. There's plenty of moms that watch, non-moms that don't watch Bluey or watch Bluey. But I was expecting a long, drawn-out, confusing process. They expected that. Everything was so intuitive that I was able to do it during one Bluey episode. And these ones that came in at the end, it was amazing how easy it is to apply. One of the easiest applications. This has been the best registration experience I've ever had. And I didn't just cherry pick. These are 90% of the quotes look like this versus the 90% before. Not only did we do this, but we now have all this data coming in real time into a Slack channel using Zapier and just using like a Google form so that the people who do the work actually see what the students are saying. And so now we get to be proactive and less reactive because we have the data to help drive those decisions and those priorities. Another example, we'll talk a little bit about a little bit more AI and some lessons that we've learned in this space. I just heard this in the last panel also, but 1/3 of our chats come in after hours. It's very normal. I'm speaking more for our online population, but of course they're coming in after hours. They're probably working full time, don't have time to actually sit down until their kids are into bed or they're done with dinner, which is 7, 8 o'clock at night. We had a chat bot previously that we had to manually code logic. I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with that if you had any chat bot in the last 10 years. But we had to have our content team essentially write up what questions we think students are gonna ask and then provide them those answers. And so the data showed that 60% of students who used the chatbot said it wasn't helpful. What did we do? We could buy, partner, or build. We do all of it. The ones that you saw previously, we built. This one, we partnered. And we found a partner who wasn't willing to give us an out-of-a-box, who was willing to give us an out-of-a-box solution, but built the solution we needed. And so we got to determine what those features are, how we probe students, and what we found out is we just scraped our websites. ASU has a massive web ecosystem, which is a part of our problem. But AI has allowed us to now understand where our gaps are. And so we use this as an opportunity to say, okay, it's scraping our web ecosystem. Well, our web ecosystem contradicts itself, right? Because this unit has this admissions criteria, this college says this, online says this. So it was a very quick way to say that we don't need thousands of web pages all about admissions. We need to work together to figure out how we provide the right content so that our agents can actually pick it up. We also started generating data so that we could see what students were talking about, what questions they had. But we didn't let perfection stop us from progress. So I hear a lot how scared we are to put AI out there because we could be sued if we provide the wrong cost, if we provide wrong information that students then come and apply. But what we did is we told our model essentially to not talk about sensitive information. Now, that's not the best experience because what students want to know is how much is this going to cost and how long is it going to take? But we couldn't answer that. So the solution is, okay, well, we point them to the tuition estimator. Well, the tuition estimator is confusing. Well, let's go work on the tuition estimator. So with this chatbot, we saw reduced escalations, increased chat resolutions, increased conversion rates, all of the good data, but we still see students wanting answers we can't give them. But my advice to you is don't let perfection stop you from progress and learning, because there's so much we learned out of this that now we get to use to help us create a better web ecosystem and better knowledge repository. Let's talk about I have two more, and I'm trying to walk you through the student journey and all the areas of friction and how problems lead you to these solutions. But coaches, so talk about our CRM, they had a report of 20 different dashboards, and that's how they prioritized who they contacted. It was very time consuming. We took a UX researcher, we said, go understand what they do every day. What are their pain points? How do we help them do their job better? And this is what we found, that they were subjectively choosing who they contacted. They also were overwhelmed, and they had about 7,000 tasks a week. And so what did we do? This is why the CRM team is on the product team, is because the CRM team previously used to be a team that just was a service to the center, to the admissions team, but we became more technologist, more product oriented, and we started to build, where we built a work queue that automates who we need to contact, and essentially based off the highest impact. If a student, we talked to them 7 days ago, or they just completed the application, we built logic that then funnels it up to the coach. They don't have to do any work, and they click a button and they can do outreach to them. And you can see the difference. Huge increases in outreach activity, more students contacted, more calls attempted, higher customer satisfaction, more time spent on calls, and significant less tasks for the coach. Automation. Not AI, but AI will now enable us to automate their notes, to use AI to understand what students, prospective students are saying, so we can use that for strategic road mapping. There's huge opportunity here, creating an agentless dialer so that coaches aren't spending 3 hours a day just sitting on a phone waiting for someone to pick up. The last one I'll get into is teaching and learning. This is very AI-centered. At ASU, we have a great AI acceleration team that works with faculty, and we have a partnership with OpenAI where we have access that we can give in a secure environment for anyone to build out their own GPTs. So when we think about teaching and learning, there's a lot of conversations around cheating. Well, it's only considered cheating if our assessments are built in the way that they are that allows for that. And so we're at a pivotal point at ASU where we have to rethink teaching all across the board, not just how AI is leveraged, but AI is here, and it is going to transform the way we learn. So we looked at our highest DEW courses, which is high dropout, high failure, English, Spanish, STEM, and we said, okay, what do we know? What are the issues? Well, we were seeing a lot of students in Spanish dropping out because the minute they got in their class, their faculty started speaking in fluent Spanish. And it was very overwhelming, high anxiety. Students felt lost immediately. They didn't have the support they needed. And so Dr. Reeves, a faculty member, created a GPT that was essentially an AI bot that could talk to you and give you feedback, which helped with the issues we were hearing, which was pronunciation concerns, fears of making mistake, low confidence, vocabulary and grammar challenges. And not only did we create a scenario-based AI solution, we brought immersive content into it so that when you're learning French, you get to go to Paris and see the culture, be immersed in it. It not only is a 24/7 companion, but it will provide you feedback based on how you're doing. It will translate what you are saying and what they are saying back to you so that you can learn at your own pace. Biology is another experience. We have our Dreamscape Learn experience, which is our Hollywood production agency that uses Walter Parks and Steven Spielberg's organization to help us build out deep narrative-driven experiences like our Alien Zoo that you're seeing here to the right for our Biology 181 course. Even with this VR experience, we're still running into challenges, the same challenges of students struggling with the Excel assignments. They're not understanding some of the jargon and vocabulary that's being used. They are taken into this VR experience and then they come out and they're not immersed anymore and they have more questions and they want to understand what chemical imbalance this animal had that caused it to die. And so from here, we built out a companion that walks along with the student the entire course, the entire pace of the course, so that whether you're in your Excel assignment, whether you're in your mission memo, whether you're in a specific module, you get to have someone there with you that can immerse with you, talk to you, and engage with you. And the reason I'm bringing this up is not to say, this is an easy thing for anyone to do, but we are experimenting. This has not gone live. Both of these experiences go live, I believe, next week. And so, but we've done a ton of user testing. We've learned, for example, what AI can do. It can take screenshots of the students' work and see what they're seeing to be able to help them. You can create a Google Chrome plugin that walks along the course with you and integrate into Canvas. You're learning what it is possible. If you wait until it's too late, you are already 10 steps behind. And so we've been spending the last 6 months just fine-tuning the model. The technology is not what's hard. It's making sure that the output is what you want it to be. And when I say we, I mean the faculty member. The faculty is driving the model. So as faculty is thinking, like, what does this mean for me? They are driving what the AI does. They are driving the output, the tone, the personality, the data that's getting fed, how we want it to answer, what is right or wrong, the golden pair questions. Very, very powerful. And so today, this will be launched. We'll be doing efficacy research, and these will be the first large-scale AI companions that we have to understand if it works or not. We're not going to invest into 100 different AI solutions until we know that this makes a difference. But we start with the problems that students already have versus just throwing AI into a course. So let's summarize. I know this has been a lot. I appreciate you going on the ride with me, but if you can take away anything from today, it's not AI. I promise you it's not AI, but it is things that are very practical, very practical. And the first one is spend time with your teams. Draw out the student journey. You may not know a lot, and I didn't know a lot when I started this process either. Bringing in each team that you work with, admissions, financial aid, communications, marketing, student success, instructional design, bring them all into a room and be like, what do we know? And I get it, I think 99% of student journeys are unique, so I get that, but just do one and see what you learn. 2, shatter silos. This starts by building relationships. Don't take no for an answer. Find a path to yes. And that path usually is objective data. If you come with subjectivity, this is what I'm hearing, these 5 students say this, go find people, whether it's data science teams, whether it's analytics teams, it doesn't matter. Find one person that can help you think through how to incrementally measure what the student experience sounds like. Fuel the front line. We're not here just to serve students, we're also here to support the staff that serve students. So when I talk to students and I hear all of the friction that they're experiencing and they're saying faculty is not getting back to me, they're not grading my assignments, the course feels like it's overloaded. When you go talk to a faculty member, they too are overloaded. They're not getting the support they need. They might not be using technology to its full advantage. And so it's our job to also support them so that they can support students. The same thing goes with instructional designers, the same thing goes with our admissions team, our advising team. The more we grow with less, the less our experience becomes. And so by helping them is inherently helping students. And my last one is feedback is the compass. Whatever you do, if you have user experience teams or don't, I'm telling you, like, all this work is with one employee. We don't have a large UX team. So have a person just dedicated to gathering student quotes, student stories, and find a way to share that, whether it is in a highlight reel of videos, audio. We even use AI now to create audio for all of our quotes so that our leadership can visually hear it from students. And so there's plenty of opportunity here that will help you make a difference. And all I can say is we need to bring back some more magic into education. And my advice is find a Disney, find an organization that inspires you enough to want to go and be a part of making that difference. Thank you all, appreciate the time.